Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. I am Muhammad Imran and as you know, we were studying the human computer interaction, and in which we were studying the chapter number 3, the interaction. So today we are going to study the interaction styles, that how do we interact with the computer in the past and now how we are interacting with the student with this different interactive systems, right? So now we can see that interaction can be seen as a dialogue between the computer and the user. Some applications have very distinct style of interaction. So we can say that if I'll have to interact with the computer, there must be some communication channel that I may provide the commands to the user, to the computer. I may click on some icon. I may touch on the screen. So there must be a mechanism that I may interact with the system, and the system may provide me the results. So it says that we have very distinct or different kind of interaction styles. So we can see very common styles there. There are the command line interface. We'll study each of these. Command line interface, the menu based systems, the natural language systems, question answer and query dialogue systems, form fill and spreadsheet systems, and WIMP, that is Windows, right? So in fact we are going to study all these different styles of interaction. So let's start with the first one, that is command line interface. So as you know that in terms of DOS, Unix, Linux, we very well know that we provide the commands on the command line interface. We have to type down the command. We have to memorize the commands, right? So now it says way of expressing instructions to the computer directly. So I get the prompt and I write down the command on it. There is no icon, there is no GUI. So I will just directly write down the command and then I can click and that command will run. So there can be a command and also there can be some functions keys, like for example F1, F3, single characters, short abbreviation, whole words, like directory is a whole word. dir again is a abbreviation of directory, right? Copy is the whole word. So we can have the commands in terms of whole words. Sometimes we apply different parameters and switches with the commands, so those can be a single character. So what it says, in terms of command line interface, we provide the command directly to the computer and it performs that particular task. So suitable for repetitive tasks, so I provided the same commands and I just execute the command, right? So I can repeat the task, but again I can repeat a task with minor change in the command line interface. That is important. For example, if I am getting the directory and I write down dir and it shows me 200 files, so my LCD will not be able to show me the 200 files at once. So it will scroll down all the files and I'll be able to see only maybe 24 files, right? So what will I do? I will repeat the task with another, for example, parameters or switch. What will I do? I will write down dir/w. So that W gives it the hint that it will have to show me the files, but in width wise, so it will show me more files, right? So what I can do, I can repeat the task on command line interface, but one thing is important, better for the expert users than novices. Novice is a new user, right? So better for the expert user. So anybody who memorizes these commands, who knows these commands, it will be better for him. But for the new user, it will be a little bit difficult unless he or she memorizes those commands. So in this terms, it says it is better for the experts. Offer direct access to the system functionality. As we have seen that there is no GUI, there are no icons that I click and then on the back end the code executes. So I have a direct access to the system functionality. So now it says the command names, abbreviation should be meaningful. In order to make the memorization of the commands easy, it is very important that we keep all the names of different commands in command line interface system. the command name must be meaningful, so that a user must get a hint: directory, copy, format, rename. So when we talk about these names, we just understand that okay, it is giving me some hint. So command names must be meaningful, and then there must be parameters and switches. As I told you, dir, it is a simple command. When I want to change the output, I write down dir/w, dir/p, page wise. When I want to see only also the hidden files, I write down dir plus h for the hidden. So in this way we can add the parameters, we can add the switches, and then we can get the job done in a different manner. The typical example of command line interfaces are DOS, Unix, Linux. So in this manner we have to write down the command on the command line interface. So it is over now, almost over, although on the server side the Linux, Unix are still in, but now the normal user, the ordinary user, we are more towards the GUI, so we are less dealing with the command line interfaces. Otherwise, the experts, the server managers and others, they are still dealing with the command line interfaces, and they have more flexibility. They get more flexibility in CLIs, right? So now let's go with the menus. This is another option. Do not think in terms of windows. These are the old menu based systems in which we used to provide the user different menus. It was normally built in COBOL, in C. So those were the main languages at that time, and we were supposed to create the menu based system. So there the user was not supposed to memorize the commands. He was just supposed to look at the menus and sort out which option he wants to perform, and then he used to click the option of that menu, or to use the shortcut key of that menu and get the job done. So now it says in that system, the menu based system, there were set of options displayed on the screen. So when there were options and options were visible, so it demanded less recall. The people were not supposed to memorize, to recall the commands. They just used to look at the screen, look at the menus and the options, and they started using it by clicking the menu option. So now it relies on recognition. So name should be meaningful. The name like cut, copy, paste, save as, these names must be that much meaningful that user must be able to understand by looking at the name in the menu. Next one, these options can be selected by using the mouse. We can click with the help of mouse, or there can be numeric options, so we can press 1, 2, 3, 4 for the menus, or alphabetic keys. If my menu provides me A is this option, B is this option, C is this option, so I can select by pressing only B, A, C without using the mouse. Without using the mouse, I can also use the 1, 2, 3 numbers, right? So options are given in 1, this, 2, this, 3, this. So we can use the mouse, or we can use these numbers. Often options hierarchically grouped, sensible grouping is needed. So again, the same concept of ergonomics, that when we group them intelligently. Like all the options that come under the file, those must be placed the title file. All those options that come under the editing option, those must come under the title edit. So in this manner we can make the proper menus. Now it says that menu systems can be purely text based with options presented as numbered choices, so we can have no graphic on them. In the past, normally we used to have the menus with only typed options on those. There were no graphical items, icons like today we have. So it says those were the purely text based, and there were the options or the numbered choices, and we used to click or type the ABC option, So this was the one option, and the other it says is it can have graphical component with menu appearing in box and choices made either by typing initial letters or moving around with arrow key. So it says the menu can have the graphical component, some image, so that we may get more flexibility in terms of recognizing the option. I have a scissor to cut, so I can easily understand, instead of reading the menu items, I can look at the menu graphical item and I can use that with the help of the mouse or arrow key or option. Then there is another interaction style, that is natural language. That means we can interact with the system through some language that is near to English, that is closer to English, because in English is the international language and it is being used. So it says that in fact natural language is an attractive option. Why attractive? Because we are familiar, it is our natural way to communicate. So if I get the easier options, not complex words, not complex terminologies, so it will be better for me because I am familiar with that language. I can use that. So it says that we have system that recognize the speech, right? Or we can type the natural language commands. For example, I can give you show, SHOW. It is not it is not in some specific language. I'm just telling you the word SHOU, show. So I want to get the data. So this language, that word is easier for me to understand and use. So same, it says that in fact we have the systems that recognize the speech. When I speak, it recognizes the words, right? So again, when I type some command, it again understands. So what it says, it says there is a problem, or there can be a problem. Sometimes some sentence, some word can be vague, it is not clear. So it can give or it can provide us some issue. There can be some problem in it. So it has given us an example that the boy hit the dog with the stick. When I read out it with the context in my mind, it is not hard for me to understand that the boy hit the dog, and with which thing he hit the dog, with the stick. So it is easier for me, for a human, because we always consider the thing with respect to the context. But computer is a machine, so it will be difficult for it to understand. So here the question is, the boy hit the dog with the stick. So whether the dog was with the stick, impossible, but whether it is giving me some vague impression. So that is why it says sometime it provides us the vague issue or vague problem. That is, the things are not clear, it is ambiguous, it is confusing. And similarly, it gives us the different words that have the same sound, and it can create the problem. For example, it says pitch is the sports field, the cricket pitch. Then the pitch is also the waterproofing material. So it says, in fact, here we have some issue of understanding those. Although now computer science has emerged and has reached to a point where AI has provided the complete knowledge to the computer. So not complete, but to the extent that it can be. So now the computer can understand easily. But it gave us a solution that if we cannot, and it is not possible to put all the words of a language in some compiler. So what it says if you want to deal with the natural language, one solution is that you take the subset of the language. You take few words, you take few terminologies, and then you apply those. And then it gives us an example, and it says try to understand a subset of SQL. So SQL is a subset of English language. Select, all, from, table, where. So all these words are very simple, that we are using in the normal life. So that is how it tells us that natural language can be used, but we have to take care of those issues of the unclear things, ambiguous things, but otherwise it is ideal. And nowadays, because the book has been written a few years back, nowadays if you look at different HCI solution, you will be surprised that now there is no need to touch anything, to type anything. The users are only speaking, and the computer is able to understand those. So it is in fact the height of that speech recognition or natural language interaction styles. So we are using those. Now it is another style, that is question answer and query interfaces. Normally in this case the user is led through interaction via series of questions. So we are provided with questions, and those questions have got some specific answers, yes, no, true, false, or some multiple choice. So it is ideal to insert data, to get data, and it is suitable for novice users, right? Why? Because we will provide him the question and the answer, question and the answer. So in this manner he or she will be easily able to insert data. But here we have the restricted functionality. That means he or she cannot write down anything of their own choice. So what we do, we only, in this specific question answer interface, we only provide them the questions and the answers, so they are restricted a little bit. So it is normally used to get the data, to insert the data from the user, and better for the novices, often used in information system. For example, if I want to enter my data in a college database, in a university database, so it will be better for me, gender, male or female, right, city this or this, so I can select the answer. Still I cannot write down. In the next step we will see we can write down, but not here. So it says that often used in information system. Query languages, for example SQL, used to construct queries to retrieve information from the database. So once data is stored, we, the computer scientists, software engineers, we in fact use the SQL or other query language, and we can retrieve back the data from the database. We can bring back the data, right? So effective use requires understanding of database structure and language syntax, hence requires some expertise. So in fact it is easier for the novice users in terms of inserting data. They are inserting data, so it is ideal for them. But on the back end, where we are placing the data in the database, we are retrieving the data through the queries, so this is important, and here we need some expertise, that the people who know the languages, the SQL, the database schemas, everything, so they can provide the better backend solution for these question answer interfaces. Now we have another one, form fill and spreadsheets. In fact it is just like a paper form on which you write down your name, father name, your address and everything. So in fact the form filling interface is primarily for data entry or data retrieval. So that means if I'll have to enter the data, it will be an ideal approach. So there we have the screen or interfaces like the paper form, name, address, username, password, everything would be like the paper page, and then I put the data in it, and then that data is put in the relevant places in the database. So it places the data into the database. Now again, these kind of systems require the good design and obvious correction facilities. So now if I am entering some data, so it must have designed in such a manner that I may not be able to enter the wrong data. There must be validation checks. If I try to insert some wrong data, it must stop me. It must tell me that you are trying to insert invalid data. So this is something important in terms of form fills. But how it is different from that question answer, here we had the answers defined, yes, no, true, false. Here we are filling the form, we are typing in it, so it is little bit different. So here we have an example that where you can type down, you can write down. So this is an example you can check from the book. And now again the spreadsheet and form fill. In fact spreadsheet is a sophisticated variation of form filling. There is how do we fill the form. We have a table and we are entering name, class, address, telephone, everything. So it says it is just like the Lotus 123. It was a software back in 94, 95 somewhere. I have used that. So it is obsolete now. Nobody is using that. But now that Lotus in fact has been converted. It has become the Excel. Excel in fact is just like the Lotus of old days. So nowadays we use the Excel, where we have the grid of cells, each of which can contain a value or a formula. You know very well, we can enter the value or we can apply some formula on different cells, right? Formula can involve values of other cells. We know that we can add the values of other cells in one cell, we can multiply or anything. So this is one thing. Then user can enter and alter data. We can change the data in the cells, everybody knows that. And spreadsheet will maintain consistency and ensure formula are correct. So if I try to insert a wrong value, it tells me that the whole formula got some problem, right? Some issue. So it makes the things consistent, uniform. So if I am doing or applying all the correct operations, it will help me. So now these were the few interaction styles. In the next class, inshallah, we'll study the more. Thank you for watching. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.